Okay, good morning, everybody. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning. Calling the roll for the Monday, January 10th Board of Control meeting is 11:03. Nan Baker.
Here.
Dale Miller.
Here.
Tim Boyle serving as an alternate for Pernell Jones. Present. Melanie Say serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Present.
Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Erman Budish.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer.
Here.
Catherine Takachi.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is a review of the minutes from January 3rd. I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Lee Tucker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
No public comment. Let's move on to our first item, please.
First item, BC 2022-29, Department of Public Works submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Home Depot USA Incorporated in the total amount not to exceed $49,500 for routine equipment and material purchases for various divisions. For the Facilities Division in the amount not to exceed $19,250, Road and Bridge Division in the amount not to exceed $2,000, Road and Bridge Fleet Division in the amount not to exceed $2,500, Sanitary Division in the amount not to exceed $21,750, Animal Shelter in the amount not to exceed $2,000, Airport Division in the amount not to exceed $2,000, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, good morning. This first item, it's a recommendation of award to Home Depot. It's going to result in a not to exceed purchase order. It's going to cover the Public Works key strategic business units, facilities, Road and Bridge, sanitary, kennel, airport. This purchase order, it's a not to exceed purchase order for a big box retail store for maintenance, repair, and operation supplies. Some examples could be shovels, hoses, brooms, cables, grout, lumber, steel. These are miscellaneous stores that are supplies that we would purchase from a big box retail store. Home Depot has historically been the go-to vendor based on logistics. We have the one at West 117th, but we also have the one at Steelyard Commons, which is very close to our biggest business units, which is our Harvard Maintenance Garage and our 1642 trades units. And also to note, this is not to be used as everyday supplies. This is key critical stuff. I think I mentioned this in a pre-question and answer. This is stuff that we may not be able to get next day or be able to wait until next day. It's critical stuff that will keep some of our operations going so there's no disruption of operations.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Are there questions from the board on this item? Mr. Boyle?
Tom, obviously I've seen your responses to the questions submitted in advance. And I understand for ease of operations that an exemption may be an easier, less resistant method, but I'm curious, was there any thought into a potential master contract or anything else along these lines to allow, I mean, look, if you're buying shovels and brooms, I don't think that they'd be any different buying them from Home Depot as they would be from Lowe's. Was there any thought on that?
So yes and no, and it's a good question. And I was going to kind of splinter off in my response on Friday. I decided not to. We do have, we currently have a master contract, but we also have a large master contract in the works for an RFP to start in 2023. We've had one in place. We're amending the current one. But as we migrate into 2023 and beyond, we are doing another RFP for a large master contract for multiple business units. The one we're focused on right now is our facilities division. A lot of everyday supplies are in that master contract. Okay. But I think we're also going to put everyday supplies such as cables and brooms and shovels and lumber. And we're definitely going to advertise this and make sure we try to get it in the hands of a Home Depot or a Menards or Lowe's and give them the opportunity to bid and have multiple vendors possibly involved. The intent of master contracts is to have that flexibility with different vendors. We're going to include a lot of these supplies in addition to other big box retail stores that may not necessarily be logistically favorable, but they may have different stock in that new RFP for the new master contract. We're just at the beginning stages of gathering revised documents for that new RFP. Specifically for our facilities, we have a new one for sanitary that's going to be going out potentially, we'll say within the next 2 weeks. And that's another thing we're going to advertise to some of these big box stores.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Welcome.
Yes, Councilwoman, please.
I'm just curious on that statement. When we talk about trying to broaden our footprint in reaching out to maybe those businesses that may be a little intimidated by the process or maybe harder for them to apply or not even know about it, any thought to going to some of the smaller hardware stores that are, kind of dotted across the county? Maybe the Ace Hardwares, the True Values, the mom and pop.
Melanie, you want to take that? Go ahead.
Yes.
So I think, go ahead.
Let me take this right quick, Tom. We actually do with our original master have supplies with like a Sutton, with Lake Erie Hardware, with the local hardware facilities and stores.
Mhm.
This specifically is because if that hardware store doesn't have the item or if we need it right away, Home Depot is open late at night. Home Depot is open really early in the morning. It allows us in emergencies to actually go out and buy stuff that maybe the local mom and pops that we do have in our masters don't have at that time or are not open. So this is kind of giving us a ability to have supplies readily available for our trades at all times of the day.
Okay, so you do have at least some effort to
Oh,
make
yes,
sure that...
we definitely have more in our facilities master, have more than 7 SBEs.
Okay, good. All right.
It's
good.
my
Yeah, and then we,
Yes.
and I'm going to chime in too, in addition to that, Melanie, is, we in addition to our master contracts, our core contracts, we've got dozens and dozens of blanket purchase orders, and it could be with, like Melanie said, FBM Hardware, Cleveland Lumber, Sutton Hardware, Cleveland Key. We have a pretty big expansive list of approved contracts and purchase orders. And many, and I don't want to say most, I'll say many, to most of those are the local shops within Cuyahoga County. And then when we do go out for a lot of these bids, we do advertise in our new bidding in-for bidding system. But, as we're kind of migrating and evolving, we're trying to get with the new software system, we're not too sure how many vendors are registered. So we're doing second efforts outside of this based on our key stakeholders within, public works, be it sanitary, road and bridge, or facilities. Who are the major players, the vendors and business partners feel that we should advertise to. So as Melanie said, we do already have a lot of these vendors. This is, a big box retail store with readily available product with alternatives. We may not have a certain thing in stock at this retail store, but they may have something that's similar. So that'll keep the operations moving.
Okay, that's good to know, because, it's easy to go to a big box, and overlook these smaller guys that may have the same thing only because of the ease of purchasing, but I'm glad to know that you're aware of it. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Sure. Any additional questions on this item from the board? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2022-30, Department of Public Works recommending an award and enter into a contract with PSX Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $44,000 for parking lot equipment maintenance and repair services at various county parking facilities for the period January 10th, 2022 through January 9th, 2024.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. This item is the parking lot award to PSX. This was an informal bid for a contract. It went to 16 vendors. We emailed 3 vendors, and PSX was the only bidder. This is for, I believe it's 5 county parking lots, the actual equipment, the maintenance of those.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Questions from the board on this item? Mr. Boyle.
Tom, it seems weird. I don't know. Why, if we send it off to 16 and then 3 other and only one, do you have any insight on why only one response?
So, to be honest with you, it's a small market.
Okay.
There's not too many vendors out there that specialize their entire business on fixing parking lot machines. there's only a handful. That's the first piece. The second piece is, when we advertise through Infor, just like when we had Buy Speed, we're also at the mercy of the right vendors being registered in the system. So if there is vendor B, and it could be Tom's Parking Systems, if they're never made aware that the county has an Infor bidding system that they need to register, they're not going to be ever notified of that bid. So that's why, we're trying within Public Works to do continue the additional efforts through mass outreach, because we're right now we're at the mercy of Infor. Of those 16 vendors that went out within Infor, I believe the commodity was parking equipment maintenance and repair. Of those 16, there may only be one or two that are legitimately could or may bid on this particular material. So we're at that mercy. But this particular commodity, it's a small window. It's not like electrical where there's dozens and dozens, or HVAC where there's could be 50 to 100. This is parking lot machines where everything's automated.
I got you. And I assume with the limited universe of potential bid recipients in this realm, I mean, you're satisfied with the award to this contractor, correct?
I feels like a trick question, but
well,
yeah,
it's on the
yes.
agenda. I assume you're okay with it. Fair enough.
Yes, I am happy that we have a bidder. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Today's supply chain is completely broken. When we go out to bid, we had multiple bids last year, formal bids where we had no bidders, to be honest with you. And the fact that we actually get one for any of our bids in today's environment and market until it improves, I'm satisfied.
Fair enough. Thanks.
Councilman Miller, please.
Can you give me a couple examples of what kind of equipment we're talking about that are going to be maintained under this contract?
It could be gates. People often hit gates. It comes down in their car. That gate has to be repaired. It could be the electrical. Like I park at Gateway East. When you swipe your badge card, if it doesn't work, it doesn't go up. It's those machines. Everything's automated. 10, 15 years ago, there was always a person there. Now everything's automated. So there's more of a heavy reliance on, maintaining that equipment. That's kind of what this ties to.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Any final questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Seconded, Ms. Lee Tucker. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item,
Thank you.
BC 2022-31, Department of Equity and Inclusion, recommending an award on requisition 5368 and enter into a contract with Cuyahoga Community College in the amount not to exceed $277,800 for diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting services for the period February 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
Good morning, Lenora Lockett, Department of Equity and Inclusion. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure. On April 14, 2021, 3 proposals were submitted in response to our RFP that was issued for DEI consultant services, which is basically for diversity, equity, and inclusion training to county staff and management under the authority of the county executive. Those 3 proposals were evaluated, and we're recommending an award to the top ranked vendor, which is Tri-C, Cuyahoga Community College. They will provide training to the estimated 4,500 county employees and additional training to management on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's estimated for supervisors and above at around 700. And there will be additional training for executive leaderships and directors.
Thank you, Lenora. Are there questions from the board on this item? Councilwoman Baker, please.
Just curious on the logistics. So reading your answer, and thank you for giving us such a detailed answer, there are 7 sessions per month for 3 months. So how long does each session usually last? That would be like 2 a week, I estimate.
So I'm sorry. So I want to clarify. So there's
Okay.
4,500 and they're estimating each class topic will be 700. So employee will attend one of those 7 sessions
Oh,
per month. And that session is about approximately 3 hours and it's
Oh.
over 3 months. I'm sorry, I wanted to
Mm.
make sure that that was clear.
No, I
So
didn't
these are
understand.
virtual classes, so there's kind of like a town hall size. So for each month, there will be 7 sessions so that we can accommodate the 4,500. And each class will have a cap of about 700 per class.
Wow,
So
okay.
there's a capacity of about 4,900 for those 4,500 to pick one of the 7
I
classes
see.
per month.
And is this like a Zoom, Skype, something that you see each other? It's not,
Yes, it's a yes.
and
It's
is
in
it,
that form. I'm not for sure if it's exactly Zoom or Skype, but it's virtual. Yes, it's supposed to be like town hall interactive
so it is,
sessions.
that was my next question. This is interactive, so if they had questions, you go back and forth?
Correct.
And has Tri-C done anything like this? I know that they have done with our police officers, but for something that we're asking in this capacity, do they have the experience to? Or is this a pilot program for them?
Yes, they have experience. They've done some classes. Again, I don't know exactly if it's 4,500 or 700, but they for RTA as far as public sector, Regional Transit Authority. They've done some training for Bay Village City Schools. They've also done training for First Energy, and that was 15,000 employees that they did equity assessments, and they did that 15,000 over 5 states, multiple locations, and within a 120-day period.
Okay.
And they also have healthcare clients as far as their experience with dealing with entities that have 24/7, 365 operations.
All right, and reading your answers here, it is, you anticipate it'll be evenings and weekends off the regular working hours?
I would not be surprised because we know, for instance, with the preliminary discussions that we're having regarding corrections officers and things of that sort, they can't be doing training while they're on site doing the actual safety jobs. So they need to do those classes or be able to get the training off duty hours. As far as when I say off duty, I know that there may be requirements for them to get paid for the time with their training, but it's not while they're doing their shift.
Are
So that flexibility.
other employees that aren't
Go
as critical in what it is that they do as far as being needed, do they perhaps do it during the day?
That would be I would believe that would be the priority for them to do it during their hours of work if possible.
Okay. And the last question I have, how do you know that what has been taught has been received and everyone has the same basic understanding of what's been taught? How do you measure that?
They're as part of their plan, they are going to do a pre and post assessment to try to gauge the actual learning that is retained. And they're using, and again, I'm not an expert at this, but there's this model Kirkpatrick Assessment where they can look at the different levels of, I guess there's 4 different levels of where they look at to see how the actual material is being retained by the attendees.
Okay, is that done through testing or by?
There's I don't know if there's a test as in graded is more, but I'm sure there's some, as when you say assessment, there's going to have to be something to say what the difference between pre and post. I'm not sure if there's a pass or fail.
Okay. And do you, Lenore, do you see the curriculum before it's presented? Do you know what it is that's going to be taught before it is taught, just so you have an idea of what is being presented? Or do you put all your faith into this class and Tri-C to follow through on what it is that they're teaching?
Well, we're accountable for their extension. They're providing the services. So we're like, for instance, we're meeting weekly now as part of the lead up to prepare.
Okay.
So we would have some approval and authority over the content as far as, but to some level, yes.
Okay. Good
I
to
mean,
know.
there's facilitators. I mean, if there's questions, I have confidence in the ability for us to have guidance on the actual content and intent. However, again, it's going to be interactive. So if somebody asks a question, there may be, I
Yeah.
have trust that the facilitators will be consistent, but I can't say I know every question and what the actual response will be. But I do have confidence that we will have high level guide, high level supervision and guidance on what content is required. That's one of the first things that they're going to do is do a stakeholders analysis
Okay,
where they're going to talk to the different entities, look at the stakeholders for our project so that they can kind of look at what are some of the actual issues that are going on in the county. And when I say issues, just what are the things that we want or need that we want addressed, or what is our climate, our market, our characteristics of our population, so that they can tailor their training to what our needs and wants are and our actual situations.
okay, that sounds good. How often will these, is this a one and done? Is this gonna be done annually? How do you see this program after this initial class is finished?
Right. So at this contract is for this initial training for this existing period. That is one of the requirements as part of, you know, the establishment of the new department, is that I am to work with HR to determine the ongoing strategy for the culture as far as equity and inclusion for the county.
Mhm.
So this will be a setting the base, but I'm not sure at this point what the frequency of this training will be. I don't see it being annual like it is for the ethics training,
Right,
but as part of maintaining a culture and building a culture is that if you have new employees, you want them to have a similar level of understanding of what the equity and inclusion initial programs and understandings are for the county. And also as people are promoted or become management, you want to make sure that they have those skills to make sure that equity and inclusion is embedded within their operations and how they make policies and procedure decisions. So I foresee some ongoing equity and inclusion training. I'm not sure exactly what the frequency and or if we're always going to use external entities.
good. That's really good answers. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're
Any-
welcome.
Any final questions from the board? Councilman
Yes,
Moore? Yeah.
I have a question or two. It's one thing for people to learn a set of facts or ideas and be able to pass a test after the training. My question is whether there's going to be anything done to measure whether this training actually changes behavior and whether it actually improves the culture.
So yes, we do want to make sure that there's a lasting impact and demonstrated throughout the county as far as and evident in how we do policies and procedures. One of the things that I'm working on in general is what I would call is an equity scorecard for the county, where we look at 3 different areas of first supplier diversity, where we look at how we're spending our money and how each department and agency is making efforts to make sure that our purchases and contracting is inclusive. I also want to look at our hiring, our workforce equity, first looking at how are we making sure that we're inclusive as far as recruiting and hiring employees. We also want to look at how we're assigning and promoting and developing staff so that, again, that once you're hired, you still have opportunities, feel that there's an opportunity for you, regardless of your race, gender, culture, other demographics, that you have the opportunity based on how you perform on the job to advance. And some of the things that you can look at is how you do your hiring, your interviewing, the testing, things of that sort. And then the third area I want to look at is how we evaluate our policies and programs through that equity lens. And that could be in how we make sure that we have disaggregated data to look at the burdens, what population is burdened, what populations are benefiting from our policies, and if that's consistent with our intent, and how we can make sure that that's equitable. So not necessarily this training will be the full fruit of what the change will be. It's going to be a culmination of all the things that we do. The training to make sure we have a baseline and assessment and opportunity for people to learn, but also we have to look at how we're looking at the 3 different areas and working equity and inclusion and how we purchase, how we hire and promote, and how we develop and implement our policies and programs.
And what extent is the to what extent is the curriculum a general discussion of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to what extent is it specifically tailored to help people better understand the demographics and the diversity, equity, and inclusion issues that are peculiar to Cuyahoga County?
So the opportunity to bring in the components with the Cuyahoga County will depend on how well we, and the great feedback that we get during the stakeholders analysis. That's the first part that we kick off. And that's making sure that we nurture and have good people involved with the focus groups and get good responses on particular issues that we feel, while in general, race, gender, culture, demographics are, part of being a human nature, but also how does it impact our operations? That's where we need to make sure we're providing the information to them so that we can have the program tailored for those needs. Now, as far as what was the second part about the culture, that how it will be implemented? And then there was a second part, Councilman Miller. I want to make sure I answer that.
So my question is whether the curriculum is going to focus on Cuyahoga County specifically and better understanding the local diversity, equity, inclusion issues, or is it going to be more of a generic discussion of diversity, equity, and inclusion?
No, we're expecting it to be more tailored to the county based on feedback from the stakeholder analysis. And that was one of the benefits that we felt when selecting Tri-C for the contract, was that we knew that they have, by them being part of our region, they have a good understanding of our climate. Now, the other component about how we make sure that individuals can build this, because it's not just a class where you hear facts. Some of the things that they're looking at is increasing self-awareness, using emotional intelligence and inclusivity. How do you, okay, now you have the factual data that we think is applicable to the county. How do you use this to make better decision making? How do you evaluate any of your own biases or become more aware of how you can make your policies, your programs, your decision making more inclusive? How does that impact the climate, your working climate, the clientele that you're providing goods and services to, or how you evaluate vendors for proposals and bids for award?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2022-32, Department of Information Technology, submitting an amendment to a contract with Unify Solutions Incorporated for SAP Human Capital Management Support Services for the period July 1st, 2017 through February 28th, 2022, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2022, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $320,000.
Good morning, Janelle Green, Department of IT. I just want to verify that you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this contract is an amendment to an existing contract with Unify Solutions. They are currently our staff augmentation provider specifically for SAP support. Not only do they supply support in the IT area, but also provide support for HR for some of the back office payroll support. We would like to extend this contract to December 31st to align with the extension of the payroll and WFM implementation, but also to allow for assistance with transitioning historical data over into the data lake, where we would have to keep data on payroll and workforce management information for about 7 to 10 years. So we wanted to make sure that we extended this contract to allow for that time and the transition of data. And we'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Janelle. Are there questions from the board on this item? Councilman Miller, please.
Does the delay in some of the ERP implementation modules have any impact on the need to extend this contract?
Yes, it does. So the delay, because we will be changing over from this particular system, the SAP system, over into the Infor system, they have to, SAP has to be maintained and exist in order for us to pump out the payroll. So it is definitely impacted by the delay in the implementation of the ERP or these modules of the ERP.
Do we have a time frame estimate as to when we would have all of the archive data transferred over to the data lake?
I don't have specifics on that, but it is definitely tied to as of when SAP would stop being used as the main payroll source. So once that data becomes static, um, we would be able to move that data over into the data lake. Now, we are extending it to December 31st with the idea that it will be done sooner than that, but that's just in anticipation of if there's some kind of delay or if there's some kind of error in the transfer of that data. So if the project and the transition happens before then, we would be able to terminate this contract sooner. But we wanted to just have it in the event that we do need it to have it longer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilwoman Baker.
So in part of your answers is the part of the overall cost of the ERP project, and you said it's split between general operating and ERP project. Do you know what that split is?
It is 55%. It is for this amount. It's 55% for ERP, 45% for general operations.
And is that 55% ERP, is that part of the 750,000, I think, that we were told was needed? Is that part of those dollars?
No, it is not part of that 787.
And
So-
just
so-
to wrap up,
Please.
is this adding to the overall ERP cost of the project?
No, for this amount, no.
So Janelle, I have a question. The funding source says general fund. Are you asking us to change this to the 55-45 split?
Yes, I mean, technically both of these are general. The ERP project implementation is still general fund, which is why it was labeled as such. But yes, ERP is 55% and our general operating is 45%.
And you have the 55% available to be encumbered, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If I may, I'm just a little
Yeah.
confused here on the 55% ERP. Where is that money coming from? I mean, where it has,
So we had in our previous budget workbooks, we had money earmarked for this transition work, the migration work in there. So it was already part of our reporting.
So it is in the budget, is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was not, what I was saying before was it was not a part of that additional appropriation ask that we have.
Okay.
That our last report was $787,000. It is not a part of that additional appropriation ask. This was something that was included with budgeted funds.
and yet, just because it's part of the ERP and not operational, you don't think that that's in addition to the overall cost of the ERP?
That is correct.
And can you just say, why is that? I mean, if it's not operational and it's going towards ERP project, why isn't it a part of the cost?
So this particular item is split between operations and ERP. So I just wanted to make sure
Right, but the
that was
55%,
clarified.
the 55% of the 320,000 is directly contributed to the ERP. And if that's the
Correct.
case, why wouldn't that add to the overall cost of the ERP project? Is that?
So I think
Because
what-
we'd already,
Yes,
I was gonna say, I think it's already in the budget. If I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, Janelle, it's already in the budget. We just haven't used it yet.
okay, so it's
And-
already
and that's
counted.
why
That is
it-
correct.
That's why I asked, you know, and she followed up saying that it was not needed because it was in the original budget.
Part of the 30
Yeah,
plus million. This is all,
Correct.
okay,
so, okay,
all right, thank you.
sure. No,
Appreciate it.
good question.
Thank you.
Mr. Boyle?
Janelle, when does the current contract expire? The documents say February, the end of February.
Yes, it was February 28th.
All right, and so what you're asking for then in this matter is to extend the contract from, I guess, March 1 all the way through the end of the year, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so I would assume that if it turns out that if we don't need their services, we somehow magically figure out that, you know, how to migrate all the data, et cetera, that if there was a remaining balance, that it would not go to the company, correct?
That's correct. We do have an early termination clause within the contract, so we would be able to, in the contract, you know, if all goes well and in a timely fashion, we would be
But
able
we're
to.
obviously not anticipating concluding our work with them in the next 2 months, or you wouldn't be here asking for an extension.
Right, because
Okay.
with the payroll and WFM, I believe, I'm not tied to the project specifically in terms of the work. The payroll and WFM is slated to end implementation, I believe, by the end of March. So once that happened, that is past the time for, you know, the original contract end date of February 28th. So once that time frame comes with the implementation, once that is static, we'd be able to transfer that data over to the data lake as well.
Is there any
So-
money still in the contract? I mean, have you guys spent all of the underlying money that's, I mean, the contract's up in 2 months. I mean, is there still money available on the original contract?
No, not for the IT purposes. Now, when I opened this particular item, I did state that there are some funds that are within HR. So
Right.
this is something that's split with HR.
I'm looking
That
more at
portion of
the,
the
here,
contract
and I
still has
apologize if
money.
I can jump in, Janelle. I mean, I apologize. My questions are are solely geared towards the ERP portion of it. I mean, is there,
Okay.
so have you blown through the money? I shouldn't say blown, I don't want to give a negative connotation, but you've spent all of the ERP money for this contract that expires in 2 months?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and this is a time and materials contract. So it's not like we pay a certain amount every month. It is time and materials by the amount of time the consultants are working for us on these items.
Yes, please, Councilman Baker.
The last question that we asked was about the 7th Amendment and how many more will be needed. And you say it's largely dependent on the implementation activities. So if there is another amendment, it would not be directly attached to the ERP. It would be more of a operating cost?
I did answer that question in that way because I don't know what the activities will be needed at that particular time. So if there's something that happens on the general end where we have to extend the payroll aspect of it, that was something that would hit general operating. But if it's something in the data migration portion, that would be something that would hit the ERP portion. So it all depends on where the assistance is needed. So, I can't predict how what would happen moving forward in terms of how the data gets transferred or what happens. But in anticipation of, you don't want to be negative, but in anticipation of something going awry, we wanted to make sure that we did note that it's a possibility that it could be amended again, and it all largely depends on the activities as far as what happens with the implementation rollout.
If I may, the dollars that are 55% ERP, will this be exhausted in this request that you're asking? Or is there money left for an additional amendment that you may foresee being needed?
It's most likely would be exhausted.
So if you came back and needed a eighth amendment, it would be additional dollars.
Correct.
Okay, sure. Seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve this item. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Lee Tucker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, BC
Oh,
2022.
I'm sorry, as amended. I wanted to throw that out there because we did amend the funding source, did we not?
I think it's all general fund, so
It's
we
so,
wouldn't,
so we're good.
yeah.
Okay, my bad. All right, thank you. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-33, Department of Information Technology, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Entrust Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $28,582.65 for the purchase of Entrust Managed SSL Enterprise Account Certificates to provide secure transmission of data on Cuyahoga County web servers for the period October 27th, 2021 through October 27th, 2022, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. Excuse me. This item is an exemption request to renew the SSL certificate service to the county with Entrust Managed Services. SSL is essentially the ability to encrypt and secure the county websites, and this particular vendor and its services is on the tax standards list, and we have been using them for at least 5 to 6 years for this service, and we would like to continue the renewal of the services with this company. It is late due to the fact that we had significant errors when trying to process this purchase order under the 2021 dates. And by the time we had to convert it over to the 22 dates, there was a delay, largely due to entry and my staff, including myself, having COVID. So we present that to you today in hopes of an approval.
Thank you, Janelle. Questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item, please.
Next item,
Thank
BC 2022-34, Court of Common Pleas Juvenile Court Division, recommending awards and enter into agreements with various municipalities in the total amount not to exceed $22,400 for community diversion program services for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023, with the City of Brecksville in the amount not to exceed $5,600, with City of Independence in the amount not to exceed $2,000, with City of Solon in the amount not to exceed $12,400, and with Olmsted Township in the amount not to exceed $2,400.
Good morning, Tamika Pally with Juvenile Court. I'd like to confirm if you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you. These are cities that participate in our community diversion program that keep our youth from official court involvement. We are using the Title IV funds for the CDPs because they're special revenue funds from our reimbursements from past qualifying Title IV expenses. The court, being that they have discretion, have decided to use these funds for all the CDPs through 2023, and we're actually putting these contracts through for 2 years instead of the year, in part due to the projected reduced number of youth referrals resulting from the pandemic and municipalities that still have carryover balances. The reason why this is late is because we didn't receive the information in time from all the cities, and there were situations out of our control where they had to get their boards or committees to sign off on the agreements prior to them signing our agreements. We have several vendors that get these items approved. So although I tried to expedite the process, some situations were out of my control. So we didn't make it to the point to express, we try to make it a point to express to all of our vendors how important it is to get the paperwork back in a timely fashion. And most of them have, but there were a few that we're still waiting on paperwork for, and there's going to be more forthcoming.
Okay, Tamika, thank you. Are there questions from the board on this item? Mr. Boyle.
Just so we have more cities that are coming, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, yeah, I mean, we do this, I think it's annually, but it's a good program, and I'm glad to see that they're coming through.
Okay, very good. Any final questions from the board? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item is approved. Moving on to today's consent agenda items.
Moving on to the consent agenda items number BC 2022-35 through 36.
Well, it's kind of a small one today. Are there any questions on the two items? Seeing no questions, then I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Other business?
We do have other business. We have the Department of Development providing an update on grant award to Project Boron LLC for the construction of a cold storage facility on the Opportunity Corridor Roadway.
Will
Good
that be
morning.
Paul? Go ahead, Paul.
Paul Hertig with the Department of Development. Councilman Baker, Councilman Miller participated in the discussion last week. Jim, it was Joe Nani who participated last week. Don't know if he briefed you on this.
No, I watched it live, Paul.
Okay, great. My update today is that as we speak, Tracy Nichols, on behalf of the developer, continues to work with Jobs Ohio to be able to secure enough grant funding from Jobs Ohio to make the project go forward. There was a significant offer from Jobs Ohio received last week, and due to an internal limit in Jobs Ohio, there's an internal limit on how much can be provided to one particular entity. And it turns out that limit is such that Jobs Ohio was not able to offer the full amount that the project needed. They were very close. So Tracy Nichols is continuing to work with Jobs Ohio to figure out a structure for the project that will let Jobs Ohio provide the full amount that is needed.
Do we have questions for Paul, or?
If you can remind me, what was the full amount that was needed from Jobs Ohio?
2.5 million. It was 2.5 million. And I can tell you they're very close. I do not want to put on the public record the exact amounts, but they're very close.
So, as I recall, we had a deadline of some date this week that we had to enter into a construction contract or else pay considerably more money. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilman. The deadline is the 14th. And when I spoke with Tracy Nichols, one of the items she was working on was an additional short extension of that deadline to finish the negotiation with Jobs Ohio.
Okay, so since this is still not fully resolved, I'd like to ask if we could have another update next Monday.
Sure.
Or Tuesday rather, because
Well, it's a
I
holiday.
think Monday is a holiday.
Paul, can you arrange that again, sir?
Yes, we will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions on other business, we'll close that item down. Is there any public comment?
No public comment, but I did want to add to Councilman Miller, we will be meeting next Tuesday, January 18th, for the next Board of Control meeting due to the Martin Luther King holiday.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor to adjourn, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.